All right. Good morning, everybody. How are you? Welcome to The Sweat presented by DraftKings. I am Emerson Lotzia coming to you live from parts unknown. What I do know, though, hold on, Steve Buchanan. I'm going to tell everyone what's coming up in this show, which is DFS and sports betting stuff, talking NHL, NBA. But yeah, why not? The sport du jour is going to be pigskin. That sounds good. I'll have that. Let's get some best bets here from Steve Buchanan and Pierce Dietrich. Good to see you too. Good morning. All right, let's start with Saturday. What's a player prop you like in this Bengals-Raiders game? Go ahead, Pierce. You're the Ohio resident.
What does that have to do with anything? Oh, I guess, yeah, it's the Bengals. Okay. I don't know why they didn't make
it's home team.
What's going on with you, dude? Hey, I have a map of the world and the country behind me, just in case you need to remind yourself where you live.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the Joe Mixon under 76.5. This number just seems a little bit high for me. I know Steve probably likes it. I think earlier this week he talked about how he wanted to take advantage of this Raiders defense. But if you look at what Joe Mixon has done and the way that this offense has been going, it's not necessarily been on the ground. 5 times in the last 5 games, he's gone under this. 11 of 16 times this season, Joe Mixon has gone under this. He's only received 20 carries or more in 4 games this entire season, and 2 of those were in week 1 and week 2. They could have success. They could blow out the Raiders and then sit on the ball, but I just don't see Cincinnati blowing out the Raiders. And if they do blow out the Raiders, I would imagine that they just keep passing the ball, moving the ball through the air, and using Mixon as a receiving running back. So I'm going to take the under in this spot.
Okay, cool. Steve, what are you looking at in this game, player prop?
This is very insulting. Pierce always goes on Twitter, talks about all these books that he reads. He's book smart. Well, if you look at the history books, it says that the Bengals in week 11 absolutely crushed the Raiders. And in that game, Joe Mixon ran for 123 yards against this Las Vegas Raiders team. Granted, it was 30 carries. It was a lot of carries, but he had all the time to do that because they were absolutely crushing this Raiders team. I like the over on Mixon's rushing yards in this game. I think he's going to be extremely efficient on the ground. The Raiders have been one of the worst run defenses in the league, and they should have no problem. The Bengals I'm talking about taking out this Raiders team. They have a very good pass rush, but who has been the best when being blitzed? It's been Joe Burrow. They're going to have no issues taking down this Raiders team. Then they're going to run it out with Joe Mixon. Give me the over on Mixon's rushing yards.
Yeah, Mixon said yesterday, too, guys, opponents are not laughing at the Bengals anymore. Quote, they know what's going on. Ooh, all right. Well, I know what's going on in the DK Sportsbook here with this one because I'm looking at it. Bengals 5-point favorites at home, Pierce. The total is 48. You feel like betting that spread, or you leaning one way or the other on the total?
I'll take the Bengals to cover in this game. If they do what they're supposed to do, as Steve alluded to, they need to beat this team through the air and then run the ball and then run away with the game. But either way, I think what the Bengals will do is just continue to pass, and it's been successful of late as long as they stick to that. One of the things that I would like to see them do is not play conservative, not play to just, hang on. We've seen that backfire on them in previous games. But if they can just keep passing, go to Joe Burrow, that's your strength. Don't let the Raiders hang in this game. Don't let them believe in themselves. Cincinnati's defense is not that good. And if you let the Raiders hang in this game, which the Raiders are a lot better team this time around, they're going to run into trouble. But if they can just come out the gates passing early, I think they'll easily cover this.
Okay, Steve, is it an easy cover?
Yeah, I mean, look, like it's a weird number. Like, I'm never really going out of my way. Like, I want to take a team that's favored by 5 points. Like, but that's how it is in this game. I like this spot for the Bengals. Like, if I was just hyping up Joe Mixon and how he's going to be running the ball up because the Bengals have a grasp on this game, then I'm absolutely going to be taking -5. I'm not going to be worried about that number. Is it the most appealing spread on the board? Most likely not, because you can get some other better numbers for some other teams. But I do like the -5 for the Bengals, so I'll absolutely take them in this spot.
Hey, Bukes, what about the Patriots in Buffalo here? By the way, I saw this morning, there's still some really cheap tickets available for this game. Wind chill's expected to could be -15 to -20, but you can get tickets right now for like $25-30 there. So if you're in the Western New York area, definitely hit it up and freeze yourself to death. What's a player prop here you have your eye on, Bukes?
I mean, first and foremost, I'm not buying any tickets for any game that, the temperature is 30 degrees or below. I don't need to pay to go outside and do that. I can watch in the comfort of my own home. So Amen. Fading buying tickets to the game. I'm also fading the passing yards for Mac Jones, which is currently at 205.5. Just feels like a really big number here when all the elements are going to be in play here once again. We joke about how Steve hates the weather. When crap like this is going on and it's like, negative 50 degrees and like nobody wants to be out there, but they're out there because they're football players and they have to get paid to do their job. You're not going to want to be passing the ball. And you can't imagine you're going to be having success passing the ball in this game anyways, against a strong Buffalo secondary. So over 205.5, I don't want to be taking that. I want the under in this one at -115. I would not be surprised if the Patriots are going ground heavy in this game once again. They might have to do it just by how the elements are. You're not going to be able to pass successfully in this game. So give me under 205.5 for Mac Jones.
All right, cool. What about you, Pierce? Player prop. You have your eye on here for this Bills-Pats game.
I'll build on Steve's playing here with Ramondre Stevenson over 39.5. Obviously, Damian Harris is the guy to go to, and he should be fine. He gets the Q tag every week and plays. But still, this is a really low number, especially if we expect New England to run the ball, which that's really their only way to win. They're not going to win a shootout with Buffalo. They've got to lean towards the run, and then you have the weather environment as well. You look at what Stevenson's done in 6 of his last 8 games. He's averaging over 5 yards per carry. And even in the 2 games where he didn't get that, against Buffalo, he was 3.2 yards per carry. But they gave the ball to him a lot because it was a run-heavy game. And so even if he doesn't have the most efficient, explosive game, we're expecting a lot of work on the ground. And 39.5 is just a really low number for what we're expecting.
All right, cool. Pierce, how about spread now? Bills 4.5-point favorites at home. You sticking with them?
No, I'm going with the Patriots. I would consider taking the Patriots money line this spot. People are overreacting. The Patriots always lose to Miami, and they lost to Indianapolis because of a couple bad plays. They lost to Buffalo. If a couple plays go their way, they win that game as well. And the last thing you want to do is to get down on the Patriots and tell them that they're not any good and that they're overrated. That's when they come out and have these big games. And we've already talked about the weather environment. I think that's going to hurt Josh Allen, and that should play to the strength of the run attack, which is where New England has the advantage over them. Strange thing. I mean, people want to say, oh, it's just weather. It's just cold. It's not a big deal. If you go through the history of the NFL, there aren't very many cold weather games. Belichick's played in 3 of these in his entire career. Buffalo, going back to 1978, single-digit games, just 3 times. Very, very cold weather is a big deal, and it's going to limit the passing attacks, and that's an advantage for New England.
Steve, how concerning is it that like Josh Allen, like right before this game, has like revealed that he has poor circulation. So when it gets to these like really cold games, he does tend to struggle. Like, I'm not kidding here.
Yeah, like when one of the big stories coming into this game is, he should be taking the blue pill, and I'm not talking about the Matrix. So, that's obviously a concern for something that you have to be worried about. Here's the thing about the Bills. Everybody wants to say how good the Bills have been at home this season. Did you ever look at their home schedule? What a cupcake schedule that they played. I'm just going to run this down real quick for you, okay? These are all the teams. They played in Buffalo this year. They played against Pittsburgh. They played against Washington, Houston, Miami, the Colts, the Patriots, and they lost that game, the Panthers, the Jets, and the Falcons. What a really enduring schedule that they had at home, okay? They have not played. They played well at home because of the schedule that they were given. They did not beat anybody impressive at home this season. Anything over 3.5, I am 100% backing the Patriots in this spot. This is likely going to be a close game because they're both going to be running the ball on the ground. So if you're getting +4 or above, you should be backing the Patriots in this spot. This game's going to be close, but you're getting the points with the Patriots here in a game that I don't think either team's going to have a ton of success. So I'll take the Patriots at +4 or +4.5, whatever it's at right now.
Yeah, 4.5 right now. And producer Drew, really hoping this game does not last longer than 4 hours. We do have 3 games on Sunday. What's your favorite player prop right now from that slate, Pierce?
Give me Gronkowski over 55.5 yards. I'm not going to overreact to the wind. Now, if the wind is 25, 30 miles per hour, maybe you start to get concerned. But if you look at Tom Brady's stats in games with wind over 15 miles per hour, just look at the last 2 from last season with Tampa. They scored over 30 points in both games. So I feel pretty confident there. And then also Gronk had a 20% target share over the last 2 weeks with Tampa having a limited amount of receivers. And he's facing a Philadelphia team that's allowed the 6th most receiving yards in 1,035 and 107 receptions. Just a great matchup, a great volume. I don't. He's got over 100 yards in the last 2 weeks. How does he not go over 55 this week?
Hey, Bukes, what player prop stands out to you on Sunday? 3 games.
Yeah, same with that same player. Rob Gronkowski to score an anytime touchdown is at even money. They are down Chris Godwin. They're down Antonio Brown. They're down Leonard Fournette. The Eagles have allowed the most receiving touchdowns to opposing tight ends in the league at 13. You're telling me that Rob Gronkowski is not going to score in this game? This is an easy way to double your money on a player prop this week. You can even get plus 750 for him to score the first touchdown. Obviously, a little more risk there, but you're getting a lot better odds there. Either way, Rob Gronkowski is coming out of this game with a touchdown. Easily double your money here with the even money on the board on DraftKings Sportsbook. So that's my favorite player prop.
All right, Bukes. Also, by the way, like Eagles, I'm looking at their schedule. They haven't faced a capable offense really since a Week 9 loss to the Chargers. So I think you guys are onto something here. Let's look now at the totals. So which game on Sunday has your favorite total to bet, Steve?
I'm taking under 46 points with the Steelers and the Chiefs. I just don't think the Steelers are going to be able to do anything on offense. They haven't been able to do anything on offense since week 1, it feels like. What's going to change now against the Chiefs, who have been a much better defensive team in the second half? You know, I don't really want to touch this total at minus 12.5. If I want to get something in this game, I think under 46 points is the play here. Like, I would not be surprised if the Chiefs go and score 30. And the Steelers can't do enough to make up the difference. Like, that is just the lack of enthusiasm I have for the Steelers offense, which resonates with Ben Roethlisberger because he feels the same way. He said it himself during a presser over the week. So give me under 46 points for the Steelers and Chiefs.
Yeah, I think the Steelers are averaging just around like 20 points a game, too. It's pretty gross. Pierce, what about you?
Yeah, let's go, Pete.
Yeah, let's go back. Let's go back to that Tampa game. And as you mentioned, Philadelphia has really benefited from a very soft schedule. You get to play Washington twice, the Giants twice, and they find themselves in the playoffs. They're not a good team. The bottom half of this league is pretty bad. And, you know, maybe this line goes even lower as people freak out about the wind, but Tampa's not going to have any problem moving the ball and scoring against a really bad Philadelphia team that really doesn't even deserve to be in the playoffs. And then they also have a pretty good offense in terms of garbage time, letting Jalen Hurts run around, get some garbage points, and push this thing over the total. As I mentioned earlier, if you look at Tom Brady's last 2 games with a 15-mile-per-hour wind or higher, the game has gone over in both of those games. I believe in this Tampa offense, and I think Philadelphia is bad, and we're gonna see who they really are on Sunday.
Hey, Pierce, what about we're talking spreads here on Sunday? Which one are you targeting?
I'm going to go to that Pittsburgh game that I know that Steve is a little worried about. I agree that this thing should go under, and I also agree that Pittsburgh's offense is absolutely terrible. But Pittsburgh's defense, although they didn't really play well in the first matchup against Kansas City, now a lot of that had to do with their offense being absolutely terrible. But for the most part, to close out the season, the Pittsburgh defense has played well. And if that pass rush can get them off the field, can end some drives for Patrick Mahomes, slow this game down, I think they can keep it within the 12.5 points. Obviously, Pittsburgh's not going to be able to score points, but I also believe that Pittsburgh can slow down a Kansas City team that really hasn't looked that great to close out the season. I mean, they've got a couple wins, they've got plenty of wins, but those wins came against some inferior opponents. They kind of stumbled a little bit into the playoffs.
Steve, talk to me here, dude.
Yeah, look, you're looking at that Rams game. It's moved to -4. I grabbed this at -3.5, and now it's at -4. I just don't think the Cardinals have an answer for the Rams this week. Like, you look at this offense without DeAndre Hopkins. Hopkins wasn't exactly, having a stellar year, but this offense has slipped dramatically without Hopkins in the mix, and Kyler Murray's not really running much either. Their top targeted receiver since Hopkins has went down has been Zack Ertz. Zack Ertz doesn't get you yards after the catch. When he basically catches the ball, that's it. That's all Zack Ertz does. And then you look at those numbers for Cliff Kingsbury. Through the first 7 games of the season with the Cardinals, with Texas Tech, he was 42-20-1. After that, Cliff Kingsbury has a career record of 16-43. That is absolutely atrocious, and that just goes to kind of talk about how bad this Cardinals team has been. This team was 7-0 through the first 7 games of the season, went 3-5 the rest of the year. They're not beating the Rams in this one. Give me Rams -4.
But at least he looks like Ryan Gosling.
Yeah, it looks great. Yeah.
That'd be phenomenal. I mean, my wife tells me that all the time as well.
Drive, a very underrated movie by Ryan Gosling, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I will definitely take that and recommend it to other people as well.
Good.
Pierce, we need you for some NFL over under coming up. Steve, you're free to go. Go start prepping for the sweat on Sunday. It's going to be a huge show. One of the games we're going to be diving into on that award-winning program is going to be the 49ers and Cowboys. Here for a little inside scoop of that game, Nick Eatman of DallasCowboys.com.
Oh, I hope not Kaufman too.
No, I hope not either.
Sportsbook, Nick, has Dallas favored by 3 points right now. The over-under is set right around 50, 51 points. Are you also expecting a close, high-scoring game?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's high scoring to me. You know, that's 27-24 type game. You know, I guess if my math is right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think it'll be that type of game. You know, like just an entertaining one. The thing that's interesting about the 49ers, they were down 17-0 to the Rams and got back in the game by doing what they do, running the ball. A lot of teams would abandon their run. So they don't abandon what they do. You have to really get up by a lot of points for them to kind of change. And so that you know, they're going to keep playing that way. I think for the Cowboys, they're going to have to score. And if it does get into a high scoring game, then I'd like the Cowboys' chances more, just because, you know, it'll be harder for San Francisco to get back in the game. But, you know, it's going to be fun. There's no doubt about it. It's going to be a fun game.
I mentioned it before. This Dallas team didn't see San Francisco all year, so there's obviously a newness going into this one. And as we know, the Niners, they finished really strong. They won 7 out of their last 9 games. Dallas, as we talked about, plenty over the course of the year, week to week, a little bit up and down in that second half, though. Clearly a great week 18, so maybe building off a little bit of momentum. But what's the top priority going into this one in terms of containing San Francisco?
You gotta stop the run early in the possession, and you got to put the ball in Jimmy Garoppolo's hands to try to beat you. And he can. He's serviceable. He's good. You know, he's not the greatest quarterback. Probably if he was, the 49ers wouldn't have drafted one as high as they did. He doesn't seem to be their future, but he's the best guy that they've got right now. And as long as I don't know if bus driver is the right term. I don't ever consider that a bad term. To me, I like the term. I mean, I think all quarterbacks are bus drivers. Some of them drive faster than others. Some of them are more reckless. Some of them have watched the movie Speed, and some people haven't. Either way, you got to drive the bus. Sometimes you got to floor it, and I think that he does that. That's the type of quarterback he is. They've got us to get off the field and stop the run, though.
Your quarterback is, I thought you were going to say, like, some people have seen the movie Speed and some people live it. Dak Prescott obviously had a very good season, as we know, the 5 touchdown passes in that regular season finale against Philadelphia. So does the 51 points, does it mean anything going into the postseason other than just, I don't know, a confidence booster?
Well, I think what it was, I mean, the 51, he got out of control there at the end of the game, and they were able to score those, but 30 at the half. I mean, that's when they were really throwing the ball well, and that's the big key for me is Dak threw the ball better than he's thrown it in a while, and that's more of the confidence. It doesn't matter who you're going up against. We've seen great throws against air. I mean, it was some great throws out there. I feel like even with Michael Gallup down, Cedric Wilson has stepped right in. And they still have a very potent offense. So I just would like the way that Dak threw it. He ran the ball pretty well. He seems to be as healthy as he's been. So it should be a good situation, heading into this game as far as where their offense is.
That offense, it wasn't a lot of fun in 2020, Nick. 2021, obviously a much better story. Both sides of the ball, actually. The defense really improved, as we know as well. But particularly the offense, 530 points. That's a new franchise record, of course, with the Week 18 mixed in there for the first time as well. 22 different guys scored touchdowns for the Cowboys also. So, that's the big picture focus. That's the broad brush. Narrowing it down to Sunday here against San Francisco. Who's a good fantasy play?
I like Dalton Schultz again. I think the way that they're going to get after the Dak, they're going to pressure him a lot, and by doing that, you got to get your safety valve. You got to the security blanket. And that's something that Schultz has done a really nice job lately, especially running the red zone as well. So I think he's a guy that could rack up a few catches and maybe some touchdowns here. Everybody else, they just mix in so many more players. Zeke and Pollard are going to run. The receivers, he spreads it around. But I think that Schultz probably has the best chance in that group to really make some plays and probably get in the end zone when we get down in the red zone.
All right. Appreciate you, Adam. Appreciate you, Nick. Pretty full Friday around the association with 9 games on tap. And we've got DraftKings contributor Matt Meiselman here for a fun little game of DFS price check. Let's go ahead and start in the guard department, dude. Hook me up with your favorite guard over $7,000.
This slate's a little weird because we have a lot of games and not a lot of value. So I'm going to go just above $7,000. I think it's going to be really hard to fit the true studs of this slate in because I just don't think there's a lot of cheap guys to play. So I'm going to go with Tyrese Halliburton. That's the game with the highest total tonight. Kings versus Rockets, 2 bad defenses. And I think quietly Halliburton has taken over as the Kings point guard. De'Aaron Fox is obviously still playing, but Halliburton has been leading the team in assists most nights. He's been playing really big minutes. I think that the offense is becoming more centered around him than it is around Fox. And Halliburton probably deserves to be priced into the 8,000s in general, but this is a great matchup against the Houston Rockets. So I think he's someone to pay up for, but also not pay up too much for because it's a little bit hard to do that tonight.
Okay, cool. So you're saying possibly steer clear of Doncic, Curry, Young, Murray, Van Fleet, those 5 guys, all $10,000 and above?
It's going to be hard. Yeah. It's something's going to happen, right? We're going to get some news soon, but for now, yes.
It's true. There still are a lot of teams out there dealing with COVID news. They're dealing with all sorts of injuries. So let's go to forward then. Are you going to spend a little more in this department? You got one over $7,000 you like?
Yeah, so I'll go just above $7,000 again with Evan Mobley, who also has seen a minutes increase. You can play Mobley at center too, but he's power forward eligible still because Jared Allen's on the team. So I think we'll probably see that stick for the rest of the season. So Mobley's a little bit above 7K, but he's playing in the high 30s and low 40s in minutes. Last game against the Jazz, the Cavs actually won via blowout where Mobley only played in the mid 30s because they were up by so much on the road, which was a pretty wild outcome for them. But the game before that, he played 42 minutes against the Kings. So I think Mobley's minute security is there. And again, same theme as with Halliburton, where paying all the way up is going to be difficult. I think in the 7,000s, he's probably your best bet.
All right. I want to see now how you're going to save money at these 2 positions at guard and forward. So let's start in guard. Let's go back there. Favorite guard under $5,000.
I'm going to go as close to the line as possible again for this one because it's hard. I think this is going to be a balanced build kind of night. So Jordan Poole is exactly $5,000. I do think Steph Curry will play tonight. I really wish I could have come on here and been like, yeah, Curry's going to rest. They played the Bucks last night. Good day off. But because that was a blowout, Curry didn't play the minutes that he normally would have for a game against Milwaukee. I think he will be out there, but the Warriors are not playing Klay Thompson. Gary Payton got injured. Draymond Green's not there. Curry could play less minutes just because it's a back-to-back. So Poole at 5K, I think, could take on a larger role than normal, even if he's not starting. He could come off the bench and be really effective. So right at 5K, I think he's a pretty good value play tonight.
All right, so now let's go to your favorite forward under 5K.
So I'll go much cheaper here to DeAndre Hunter in the 3,000s. The Hawks just traded Cam Reddish to the Knicks. I don't even know if Kevin Knox is going to wind up in the Hawks rotation, but they certainly don't have him yet. So they're a little shorthanded because of that. And then we have Kevin Huerter with a questionable tag. DeAndre Hunter may be especially necessary for this game if the Heat have Jimmy Butler back. It's an important division game. The Hawks really need this one to kind of stay alive. Hunter has been out a lot of the season, but he's their best wing defender on the roster. And if Butler's out there especially, they're going to need his minutes. So I think Hunter, he's only been back for a game. He played 24 minutes the first time. I think we do see that number go up. And he really, to me, is one of the only true value plays on the slate right now.
So when I ask you favorite center over $7,000, looking at the salaries here, good Lord, Joel Embiid 11-2, then Sabonis 10-1. Those are the only 2 guys that are going to be in 5 figures.
Yeah, and it's similar theme. Like, I don't really think we can pay up for those guys. The thing here too with center is those are both tough matchups. Embiid's going against the Celtics, and Sabonis is going against Phoenix. So I don't really like the spots there. I'll give two names though, because Christian Wood seems obvious at just above 7K, but I think everyone is going to play Christian Wood. Like I mentioned, that Kings Rockets game is going to get a ton of attention. So as a pivot to him, Jared Allen is right around the same price. He's actually a little more expensive at 7,700. And I think that he just makes as like a contrarian pivot off of Christian Wood, where he's a little more expensive. Probably don't expect quite as much from him, but I think it'll be way lower ownership. So it's not a terrible price for Allen in the 7,000s. I think he could do well against the Spurs.
Yeah, and Embiid, the highest priced player on this 9-game slate tonight. So now you've done a great job at this so far throughout this segment. Hook us up, save us some cash. Someone can still deliver some points for. So a center under 5K.
This is a guy I'm pretty partial to in general, but I mentioned the Warriors being shorthanded. I think one of the guys who people might not realize hasn't been playing a lot of back-to-backs is Otto Porter Jr. So we have Nemanja Bjelica, who I think could step up and play bigger minutes tonight. He's only $3,300. And for this matchup for the Warriors against the Chicago Bulls, I think they'll start out with Kevon Looney guarding Nikola Vucevic. But Vucevic plays more on the perimeter. He's not a traditional center. And I don't think Looney is the guy that you necessarily want to try to cover him, because Looney is more of a below the basket kind of like post-up defense center. I think the Warriors might be more comfortable playing Bjelica at center for a big chunk of this game. And especially if they don't have Porter there, it just could mean more minutes for everyone. There's already no Draymond. There's already no Klay Thompson. There's already no Gary Payton. They're pretty shorthanded tonight. So guys who don't usually play a lot of minutes, I think, could get extra run tonight. So Bjelica at 3,300, really low price. I think it could be a lot of upside for him.
How excited are you for this weekend slate? I'm looking at some of these games: Lakers, Nuggets, Sixers, Heat, Bulls, Celtics, Jazz, Nuggets on Sunday. This is going to be a fun weekend in the NBA, right?
Yeah, definitely. And these teams are getting healthy. Like, we actually get to see good players. It's been a long time coming, but it seems like just about every team is getting their guys back. Jimmy Butler wasn't out for COVID. He was out for an injury, but it sounds like he's getting closer to a return. So any Miami game with him is more exciting. I'm a big Jimmy Butler fan. Yeah, it's cool. We get some real basketball soon.
Let's go, man. Maddie, you crushed it as always. Do appreciate you. We also got a full plate of football. What? Do I hear something? I hear something weird in my ears. Okay, anyway, I'll continue talking. We got a full plate of football this weekend. It doesn't stop until after Monday Night Football wraps up. We got a Monday Night Football wild card game here, guys. And that's going to be the Rams and Cardinals. And we got the guys on unreasonable odds talking about that right now.
Monday night, I do have a take. Cardinals, Rams, another division matchup, another night game, another third time around this year. Road team won both of the regular season matchups. I'm laying the 3.5 with the Rams at home. I have no issue with that. I think that they are the better team, and I think they will show it in this game. I pray that Stafford just doesn't make the dumb mistakes that he's been making in some of these games lately, because they don't need that. If they just play a little smarter, talent-wise, they should get through these games. But you got Cooper Kupp. Odell Beckham Jr. is actually making a difference as the wide receiver too. They're running the ball pretty well, and they have the difference makers on defense with Donald up front and Ramsey in the secondary as playmakers. The Rams outside of Stafford really have been there. They've made their runs, and Stafford should be veteran enough to stand in there and help them. This is the learning experience for the Cardinals of getting there and being there. I don't want anything to do with Cliff Kingsbury in a playoff game. He's awful. Simple as that. Give me the Rams with the 3.5, laying the 3.5 on Monday night, Dan.
Yeah, we're in full agreement here again. This is my favorite play of the weekend, and I know it goes directly against the divisional stat that I just gave out.
Yep.
However, and this is the however, okay? However, one, Bill Belichick is not Cliff Kingsbury. Kingsbury has been maybe outside of Brandon Staley. If you take a look at just in terms of coaching rankings and obviously, Joe Judge, et cetera, I would have Cliff Kingsbury and Brandon Staley as the number 3 and 4 worst coaches in the second half of the season. And I know people think that that's astonishing or some really super hot take. I think Staley took his team out of the playoffs. And I think Kingsbury did his damnedest to try and get his team out of the playoffs. Like down the stretch, this team, started 7-0. Like people forget that. They backed into the playoffs. they lost to Seattle the final week. This team sucks right now. And no DeAndre Hopkins, which has been such a major turning point for this Cardinals team. No Hopkins has been an issue for Kyler Murray. It feels like there's just no organization here. It feels like everyone's going to love the Cardinals as a public dog. Ooh, I'm getting 3.5. Like, ooh, I'll take the dog on a Monday night, divisional. And again, the stat says take Arizona, but the Rams, and by the way, I think Stafford is banged up, which I think is partially part of the problem right now. I think he's playing through something, but they're too talented. They have been playing such good football. I know they lost, they blew that lead last week, but that was Deebo Samuel being Deebo Samuel and doing Deebo Samuel things. I just don't think that the Cardinals are going to be able to, replicate what the Niners did. I think that the Rams are playing better football, and I just don't see how the Cardinals cover Cooper Kupp. I don't see it. And Cam Akers shockingly might play a decent sized role in this game. Crazy compared, because he tore his Achilles and, before the preseason, absolutely insane. But I think if they can run the ball and hold it, I think they win by a touchdown. I love the Rams, love them. And I think that I would probably be looking at some alt spreads here too, for potential payouts.
Anything up to like 6.5, you think, on alternate?
Yeah, I might even be willing to, dabble on the 7.5. Yeah.
All right. Quick question before you go, Steve. What level of confidence did you guys have in Hopkins playing in this game? Because maybe I'm just an idiot, but my understanding was they were working hard to get him back. It would be like, hey, you'll be back sometime in the playoffs. No.
Yeah, I think the idea was if he was going to come back, it wouldn't be until the championship if they made it that far.
Oh,
yeah, no shot at the
maybe I'm thinking of somebody else and I just wasn't paying attention. But
just real quick, because I know Dan's got to get out of here. Though that stat about Kingsbury for the first games 1 through 7, even back to Texas Tech, 42, 20, and 1, and then the rest of the year he's gone 16 and 43 in his career as head coach. Absolutely atrocious. And then all the points that Dan made, they can't stop this Rams offense. They can't stop this Rams team. You get Beckham in there, you got Kupp, and then without Hopkins, it's been such a big difference. Like the number one receiver for the Cardinals since Hopkins has been out is Zack Ertz. Zack Ertz doesn't do anything after he catches the ball. No yards after the catch ever. He catches the ball and falls down. That's all he does, right? You're not going to beat the Rams with somebody like Zack Ertz or anything like that. James Conner been banged up too as well. That was a big force in the game when they played him the first time. Now James Conner's banged up. You're going to rely upon Chase Edmonds? That ain't happening. Come on. I love the Rams, -3.5. I think that is 100% the play in this game.
All right, there we go. It sounds like the Rams are the best bet from the podcast in unison here. So there we go. You gotta wait till Monday night. Save the best for last.
All right, welcome back to the Sweat, everybody, where it is time now for some NFL over or under. Some of these Pierce decided to answer in the first segment of the show, but at least we have, making his January 14th, 2022 Sweat debut, Jeff Ulrich, who once promised to send Christmas gifts to my dogs but never did. The North remembers Ulrich. Starting in DFS, who's a player cracking 30 DK fantasy points this weekend, Jeff?
The saga continues. Uncle Deebo Samuel, 7,900. I mean, this one is pretty easy to me. You'll go with your first inclination on your answer, and Deebo Samuel is certainly the first player that popped up to mind here, and for good reason. I mean, he's gotten over 30 fantasy points on DraftKings 4 times already this year, but I just feel like you look at this game style. We've talked about this one. It's obviously going to be in a dome, a controlled environment. That's great. But the 49ers are underdogs here too. And the last time we saw San Francisco get behind in a game, well, I mean, it did happen last week, but also against Tennessee, 11 targets. I do feel like this is a spot where Deebo Samuel is going to break out a little bit as a wide receiver because the 49ers will need him just to catch the ball a little bit. Obviously, you've got a Dallas secondary that's talented, but they also have allowed the 7th most receiving yards to opposing wide receivers. The big plays are there against Dallas. It's just so are the turnovers. So Jimmy G throws a couple picks. That's fine. We'll just get a faster paced game. I think Deebo Samuel has all the makings of a big fantasy game. He's not a player I want to fade this week at all.
You mean the wide receiver is going to actually do wide receiver things this weekend?
And still probably run the ball. I mean, that's the beauty of Deebo Samuel.
And let's not forget he passes for touchdowns now as well. Pierce, who's a guy cracking 30 DK fantasy points this weekend?
You got to go with the obvious play, the obvious wide receiver. That's Cooper Kupp. He's the best wide receiver in football. He's got a great offensive line. He's got a great quarterback. He's got a great matchup. The Cardinals are not the defense that we mentioned earlier in the show that, the Cardinals jumped out to a 7-0 season. They've lost, 5 games in their last 8 games. This is not the same team. Their defense has struggled. When they lost Robert Alford, they began to struggle even more. Byron Murphy is supposed to be a good cornerback, but he has not played well this season. He's got a 61 PFF grade. Last time he matched up with Cooper Kupp, he allowed 6 catches on 7 targets for 70 yards. And in total in that game, Kupp caught 13 of 15 targets for 123 yards and a touchdown. I mean, we've seen him explode every single week during the regular season. Why wouldn't Cooper Kupp have another monster game in the most important game of the season? And if I'm Matt Stafford, he's the only guy I'm going to throw the ball to anyway. So just keep feeding him the ball. He's the obvious answer for 30 points.
Jeff, did we talk about the other day on the slate that we're kind of thinking like Stafford is just trying to be Mr. Nice Guy and making sure OBJ gets his looks too?
I mean, it does seem like that a little bit. I mean, obviously they wanted to fit in Odell Beckham into the lineup quickly, just because when they get in the spot, they want a secondary option. But I mean, I don't know how much they're going to be worrying about distributing the ball. They're going to be going to whoever works the most, and who has worked all year has been Cooper Kupp. So I can't really disagree with this one. The only thing I'd say about the Rams is they've been running the ball a little bit more of late, and if they get up, maybe Kupp is limited to 9 or 10 targets instead of 14. So I like Deebo Samuel's pure upside a little bit more, but I mean, the volume for Kupp will be there for sure.
And I know, Jeff, you also said you think the Eagles will put up a fight against the Bucs. I know Pierce agrees as well, but will it go over or under 46 points?
Yeah, this one it's a little bit tough. This total has come down a lot. There's concerns with rain and stuff like that. I'm not actually sure how bad the weather's going to be, but I like the under here a lot more when it was 48, 49 points. I still will lean under. I think this total is very correct. I think you could see a 24-22 game and it wouldn't shock me, but I'll still lean under here. And I'm gonna throw some heat Reed T. Fowler's way. He's got a great trends article up on the DK Nation playbook. Some good trends here for the under. You're looking at the Buccaneers last 6 playoff games, last 6 home playoff games, 5-1 towards the under. But there's also other trends against the NFC 5-1. Last 6 games in January as well. Last 6 games as a playoff favorite, 5-1 to the under. So the Bucs in the playoffs have tended to tighten up a little bit. And some of that that history does have happened under Bruce Arians. And I think that the Eagles defense is a little bit better than people are giving them credit for as well. I think they're going to keep this game close, and I think they're going to be able to shut down Mike Evans. I think you will see, I will lean the under here.
All right, Pierce, did Jeff change your mind at all from the first segment when you said you liked the over in this game?
No, I'm going to keep saying what I said in the first segment. That was an accident, by the way. I didn't realize that I was repeating information.
It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. You're giving good information. We're not going to complain about that.
So I'll add some more to that. Philadelphia has gone over in 4 of their last 5 games. The one time they didn't go over was in a matchup against Washington, and it's hard to go over when you're facing an offense that couldn't score when they were healthy, let alone when they were dealing with COVID issues. So Philly is playing towards the over, and I disagree. I think Philadelphia is a really bad team. If you look at how they got into the playoffs, the 9 games before they just got whooped by Dallas were all against teams that did not make the playoffs. Talk about a soft schedule and making them look a lot better than they are. You go back to the early part of the season where Philadelphia was playing real teams. They were getting thumped, and then they would score the points in garbage time to hit the over. We saw them do that against Dallas early in the season. We saw them do that last week against Dallas. I think you have a similar situation where Tampa Bay is just going to roll on this team. And I know Jeff mentioned that, well, they've been on the unders in the playoffs, but how many times have they played a team this weak in the playoffs? Typically in the playoffs, you're facing good competition, but this Philadelphia team is a fringe playoff team at best. Tampa should be able to take care of business, and then Philadelphia will get the garbage points that takes this thing over.
Yeah, the Bucs have posted 30 or more points in 6 of their last 8 outings as well. Jeff, I don't know if you caught our first segment because you're dealing with a leaky roof, but really the Eagles haven't faced a capable offense, at least not counting the finale there where they got thumped by Dallas, since week 9 when they lost to the Chargers.
The biggest argument against Philadelphia in these playoffs is that they don't have any quality wins. I don't disagree there, but this is still a quarterback in Jalen Ertz who showed some pretty solid progression throughout the year. And I mean, you've got two teams to me headed in different directions. You've got the Eagles coming off a bye week with some solid wins, and you've got Tampa losing their number one wide receivers and, you know, struggling a little bit against the Jets down the stretch. So, yeah, I'm sticking with my Eagles call. I have no reason. Pierce certainly isn't going to convince me of anything to change my mind. I'm sticking with my Eagles call here. And as far as the total goes, though, I do think like the number is very close. It's not necessarily a total I want to attack, but I would slightly lean towards the under on it.
All right, we are running a little tight on time, but let's stay in that game. Brady's touchdown prop plus 170 for over 2.5. Will he go over that, Joe?
No, I'm gonna stick with my call here. I mean, I think that Brady doesn't necessarily struggle, but I think that the Bucs offense does necessarily struggle to put up like 5 or 6 touchdowns like they were doing early in the season. Again, Eagles very good at limiting opposing wide receivers, and outside of Gronk, I mean, the options in the pass game very limited for Brady. We have seen him struggle, especially early on when Godwin went down. So I'm gonna lean towards the under on this one.
So then, Pierce, are you going to go over, considering you like the over in this game, or you think the damage will be done more maybe on the ground with some of these running backs coming back?
I'll take the over. They're going to score, and so is it going to come on the ground? Is it going to come through the air? Well, if you look at last season in high-win games, over 15 miles per hour, Brady threw for 3 touchdown passes against Green Bay, threw for 2 touchdown passes against Carolina. I would be concerned about a yardage total. But if we're just talking about touchdowns, I don't think the weather's going to be a factor, and this is a soft matchup, so I'll take the over.
Pierce, you said you just don't really see Mixon going over his rushing prop earlier in the show, so that's 76.5. No chance. You're sticking with that?
I'm going to stay with the under. The number is pretty high based on what he's done this season. Last 5 games, he's gone under this number. He's been under it 11 times in 16 games this season. He's only received 20 carries 4 times. And 2 of those were at the beginning of the season. Now, one of the times they did get 30 carries was that Raiders matchup. And that's Steve's opinion. And that's a pretty valid point. The last time he faced the Raiders, he went for over 100 yards. But on the larger sample size, more often than not, he's under this number. And we've seen the Bengals shift towards a passing attack. Why would they change back to the run? I'm going to take the under.
Jeff, are you in agreement here?
I just think the numbers on Joe Mixon are too big. There's just too many ways that he goes under here. And look, his last 5 games, he's averaged well under 4 yards per carry. So the rushing total, I definitely don't want anything to do with. If you're really bullish on Joe Mixon, I would just go to the receiving plus rushing total. He's definitely been used a lot as a receiver. Pierce has mentioned they've shifted more to a passing attack, I think, as Joe Burrow has gotten healthier. And Mixon as a receiver has certainly broken off some big plays. So I get a better shot to go over on the 99.5 receiving plus rushing total on Joe Mixon. But realistically, I actually don't even mind taking an under on the rushing total because the Raiders' rush defense has been a little bit better. And I think Cincy probably gets it done through the air more than on the ground.
Jeff, you mentioned that you expect a big receiving game out of Deebo Samuel. So my guess is you're going over 63.5 here for receiving.
Yeah, I mean, this total was 59.5 a day ago, and it's already gone up. People are recognizing this total is ridiculously low. Again, we're in a dome environment. We're in a spot where the 49ers probably going to be trailing at some point in this game. Maybe not at the end, but at some point. We're expecting a back and forth game. Jimmy Garoppolo, like we already said, turning the ball over, probably going to lead some Dallas points. It's just going to mean more quick tempo, more targets for Deebo Samuel. We've seen these low totals on Deebo a lot of spots this year, and they've almost always gone over. There's no reason to start fading this guy now. Absolutely. This one's just way too low in my opinion.
Yeah, Pierce, he could hit the over here in the rushing department, like at 63.5 or receiving yards, but we're talking just receiving yards here. What do you like?
Yeah, I'll take the over. And there's a couple subtle clues that Jeff mentioned, the interceptions that Garoppolo is throwing, and he's facing a team and the Cowboys that have been getting a lot of interceptions. So that could force San Francisco into more of a passing situation. Garoppolo's thrown for over 300 yards in the last 2 games, so he's putting the ball in the air. And, it really only takes 1 or 2 plays from Samuel. He's got a pretty solid matchup against Jordan Lewis, who has a 61 PFF grade. So I think taking the over or even parlaying it with his rushing total isn't that crazy.
Pierce, the Patrick Mahomes passing plus rushing yards prop now back up to 299.5. Over or under that?
I'm going to go under. I feel like I've kind of dug my heels in with this Pittsburgh stance, and I can't back down now since I've talked up Pittsburgh all week. But their defense deserves some credit. Their offense is terrible. We get that, and they're going to struggle. that I believe that the defense can at least keep them in this game or keep Patrick Mahomes in check. Even in the game where Kansas City blew out Pittsburgh recently, Mahomes didn't have to do that much. He didn't put up a big number. The key to beating Pittsburgh is on the ground with your running backs. So I'm going to go with the under on Mahomes.
Okay. What direction are you going in, Jeff?
Leaky roof, and now I got to get in a leaky Steelers boat with Pierce Dietrich, I guess. I'm going to take the under here as well. I've kind of been digging my heels in with the Steelers as well. I think we see this one fairly similarly. Look, Mahomes has only gone over this total, like the rushing and passing. I mean, twice in his last 7 games. It's not like he's been necessarily lighting it up. He's been a lot more efficient, but he hasn't been lighting it up. And I think that the Steelers, there's so many ways where Mahomes can go under here. Maybe the Steelers and Ben is so bad that like there's defensive touchdowns and then Mahomes doesn't have to do anything. Maybe the Steelers defense just gets them a lead and just like shuts down Mahomes with their pass rush. But either way, I see more scenarios where the under hits here on Mahomes total than the over.
Okay, yeah, 258 yards passing against Pittsburgh back in Week 16. Actually, it's 0 rushing yards when he faced the Steelers.
Probably because they were up by 30 before the game even started, right? So
For sure. Yeah, they smashed him. Pierce, a toodaloo. Have a great rest of your day and have a fantastic weekend. We'll be thinking about you, and we'll see you on the Sweat on Sunday. Jeff, I need you for some NHL goodness right after this break.
Sounds great.
All right, everybody, we are wrapping up this show with some sticky puck. Hello to our NHL panel, consisting of DraftKings contributors Jeff Ulrich and RotoWire's Paul Bruno, talking best DFS and sportsbook plays for tonight's 3-game NHL slate, everybody. Paul, who are you paying up for tonight in DFS?
Well, you got to consider the lopsided matchup that features McKinnon and company. He's averaging 19 DraftKings points per game. That's great production, and he'll probably live up to that and then some for the price tag of $9,100 tonight against a very bad Arizona club. If you're a little nervous about that price tag, though, Jonathan Huberto is another star who's on a white-hot streak with 16 points and 31 shots on goal in his last 10 games played. The league's 5th leading point scorer will cost only $7,200, largely because he faces a much more difficult opponent as the Panthers host the Dallas Stars. And for the same price, his teammate Alexander Barkov anchors a separate line on regular shifts, but they join forces on a very good power play. Barkov is more of a goal scorer than Huberto, has 6 in his last 10 games. He's enjoying a size advantage tonight against any center the Stars play against him as well.
Jeff, who are you paying up for?
Yeah, I really like the Florida guys. I was going to go with Jonathan Huberto, but you know what? I actually like the Dallas Stars in this matchup, like pretty much just as much. And the one thing about a guy like Rupe Hintz, who I'm going to make my target here, is that it's really easy to stack the Dallas Stars first line. Like Jason Robinson, Joe Pavelski, those guys are just joined at the hip with Rupe Hintz. And also, you know, I mean, Hintz 6,500 versus a guy like Huberto 7,200. I mean, you're saving some cash by going down to Hintz. So Dallas scored 6 times against the Panthers the last time these two teams met, which was only like a week or so ago. And I think that the Stars offense has plenty of potential here. The Florida Panthers have just been getting in shootouts every single night. And one way you can attack them is on the power play, which is where Dallas is very, very strong. So I like going with the value with Rupe Hintz, but realistically, like on a 3-game slate, if you roster like 80% of your guys from this game alone, I think you're actually you're probably doing the right thing here.
All right, less than 5 minutes to go in the show. Best value play, Jeff, you're going to throw in your lineup.
Yeah, I'm going to go a little bit off the board here. I'm going to go with the Arizona Coyotes. They're coming off a win, and you know, it was kind of an ugly win. They allowed 46 shots against, but I do think this is a spot against Colorado where you'll see a couple of their guys get on the board, and I'm going to go with Phil Kessel as a bit of a long shot tonight. He hasn't scored much of late. He's only got 2 goals in his last 10 games, but he is averaging right around 3 shots on goal per game. Again, the Coyotes need him to play big minutes every night, and it's just one of those things. Yeah, I do think that the Avalanche are probably going to win this game. They're probably going to score 5 goals again, but I also think they're probably going to let in 2 or 3 goals. And I think that's going to lead to a couple Coyotes having decent nights for daily fantasy. Kessel's only 3,600. Like I said, he plays in all situations. And in a game like this, where, you know, you're going to get some open ice against Colorado, he's certainly got a good chance to grab you a goal. So I'm going to go with Phil Kessel as kind of a, you know, a boomer bust GPP target tonight.
Paul, who's your value play?
Andre Burakovsky replaces Gabe Landeskog on the Avs top line. He costs only $4,800 tonight. That's all you need to know about him. And I like the matchup for Minnesota at home against Anaheim, so I can make the case for Fiala and Zuccarello, a pair of scoring line wingers who are very affordable at $5,100 and $5,200 respectively. And finally, Val Nichushkin is a consideration in the low range, priced at only $4,200, despite the fact he's looked very good since his promotion to Nazem Kadri's left wing.
All right, guys, we're going to go to the DK Sportsbook. I need you to be quick on these, please. Stars are in Florida. Panthers are favored because they're a lot better at hockey than Dallas, minus 200 on the money line. What's a bet you like in this one, Paul?
I'm on the home side on the puck line, Emerson, which says the Panthers win by at least 1.5 for a 115 payoff. They have one of the league's deepest offenses, obviously, and are outstanding on home ice. They'll pad both those numbers tonight.
Jeff?
I'm going to go against Paul on this one. I like the Stars at plus 165. I think this is just too good a team to be available at this big a number. The Panthers are great, but again, the Stars, we saw them beat them just a week ago in a shootout, and Dallas can certainly keep up with that big top line. So I'm going to say that there's some pretty good value there on the money line with Dallas Stars tonight.
Jeff, how about Ducks Wild? Goal total here, 5.5. Ducks plus 130 to get the road win.
Yeah, no, I don't really like the Ducks in this spot at all. Coming in as losers of 5 of their last 7 games, their only wins have been against the Red Wings and Flyers over that span as well. The Wild have seemingly got it together, a couple wins in a row now. And also, you look at the Wild's home record, it's fantastic, 11-3-1. The Ducks are barely 500 on the road. I think you're actually getting really good value with the Wild at minus 160. And it's probably my favorite money line bet of the night.
Paul, what do you like?
I agree with Jeff. This could be also a high-scoring game, as we've spoken of the improvement of the Ducks' offense, and the Wild has developed a pretty deep offense as well. I couple that with a pair of vulnerable goalie situations, and I go to the alternate total goal line to go over 6.5 to pay at plus 135.
All right, finally, Paul, Coyotes and Avalanche. Avs big favorites at home, obviously. Which bet do you like in this one?
Look, I watched the Coyotes squeak by the Leafs the other night. It was an absolute shooting gallery inside the Arizona for much of that game. Vemelka was unbelievable, and I just can't see the home side giving up a similar advantage to another elite team and getting away with it again. Colorado should win easily, and I don't expect much offense again from Arizona. Take the under 6.5 bet here and collect a bigger payout on the alternate total goal line at plus 170 when the clubs go for less than 5.5 goals against tonight.
Jeff, what you want?
Yeah, I mean, Paul pretty much echoes my sentiment. The Coyotes gave up 46 shots. They're probably not going to get 45 saves again. Colorado, minus 2.5 is minus 120 on the alternate puck line. I don't mind taking that at all. And I think my favorite bet from this game would be to target some Nathan McKinnon goal props. Like if you can get him for 2 or more goals, like this spot, he's averaging an insane amount of shots on net, 6 per game over his last 10 games. He's due for a multi-goal game really soon.
Thanks, fellas. Stay warm this weekend. It's going to be dangerously cold in many of the parts of this country. Sunday Sweat, 11 a.m. Eastern time. That's going to be on SNY in New York. We are big time. And Masson in the DMV area. High noon, Bally Sports Networks all around the country, talking lots and lots of football because it's a super wild card weekend. Have a great, great weekend, everybody. We'll see you Sunday Fun Day.